Hi, this video is a continuation of my previous video in which I discussed the controls palette and some available data types. Today we are going to talk about arrays, matrices and clusters. The array, matrix and clusters are all present in a single subpalette called the array, matrix and cluster subpalette. The items contained in its subpalette allow us to put data up. Arrays in particular can be used to put data of the same type. So you could have arrays of strings, booleans, numbers, etc. Although arrays of graphs, tables, and matrices are not allowed, neither are arrays of arrays. In order to make up an array, we need to pull out an array box from the array, matrix, and cluster subpalette. There you go. And drag a controller indicator of the kind of array you want. Of course, putting in an indicator results in an indicator array and vice versa. As you can see, there are two parts to an array. The first is the index and the second is the element. The index is used to address elements of the array, and an element shows the value of the array at that index. So if I wanted to make up a numeric control array, what I would do is that I would go to the numerical palette and write out the numeric control and bring it within the element box. As you can see that as soon as I bring the numeric control within the boundaries of the box, the boundaries become shaded. So if I wanted to create an array of numbers from 1 to 5, then I can just enter the values in for the respective indexes. So this is for index 0, for index 1, 2, 3, and 4. There you go. Another thing that I would like you to note is that although only entered values up to index 4, I can move about onto any index value that I want. Say 1000 even. This is because LabVIEW does not put a limit to the size of the array, in the sense that I can have 2 raised to 31 minus 1 element in a single dimension. Another thing that I would like you to note here is that although I haven't put anything in for the 1000 index, I still have a value 0 written with a shaded background. This is a default value of the numeric data type. This means that if I try to read the 1000 index in my VI, then I would get the numeric value 0 being read. So I'll just bring the index value back to 0. Alright. I can also view all elements of an array simultaneously by moving the cursor onto the bottom right edge of the array, like this, and by expanding it either vertically or horizontally. So since I put in 5 elements, I need to expand it to 5. As you can see, now I can view all of the elements that I entered into my array simultaneously. This was a single dimensional array. One can also create multi-dimensional arrays by bringing the cursor over onto the index and using the shortcut menu and then clicking on add dimensions. So now I've got a 2-dimensional array, and we can insert more dimensions by doing the same. Like before, we can view the elements of both the dimensions simultaneously by bringing our cursor over onto the right bottom edge and expanding it. Since this is a 2-dimensional array, I can expand it vertically as well as horizontally. I'll just move it over here, and as you can see that if I create the value of index, and I get more elements being accommodated into my 18 element viewing area. Arrays can be used to group data of the same type. Clusters, on the other hand, can be used to group data of different types together. So if you want to say keep a record of to store the information in a school, you can use a cluster for that purpose. Clusters are created in much the same way as arrays, by dragging out the cluster blocks onto the front panel and putting whatever controls or indicators one wants to put in it. One point to note here is that a cluster can either be an indicator or a control. Also, elements put in a cluster are dependent. This means that what you put in first becomes the first element and the others come in afterwards sequentially. So if I want to make up a cluster of say a student record, name and the roll number, so what I could do is control, like the array, as you can see the border becomes shaded as soon as I bring the control within the cluster box boundary. This is indication that the string control is now a part of the cluster. And I could have say a numeric control for its roll number. Name over here. If I want to change the order of the elements that I put in the cluster, I can use the shortcut menu to do that. Using this option. So I just change the order. So now I've got the numeric control roll number being as the first element and the string control name being the second element. So I'll just confirm it. Since arrays of arrays are not possible, one can use a cluster for that purpose. The last part of the array matrix and cluster subpalette are the matrices. There are two kinds of matrices in LabVIEW. The first is a real matrix and the other is a complex matrix. As apparent from the names, the real matrix allows us to create the matrix of real values, and the complex matrix allows us to create a matrix of complex values. Values can be entered as we do for the simple numeric control. So this could be and it's the same way as well. So this is the end of this video tutorial.